This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation Pop Experience. Welcome to a brand new show here on this very feed. I am Andy Atherton, and this is Cartoons of Our Youth. Yes, finally, I've been talking about this pod for many months, even a year probably, because you guys, look, if you listen and you see what pods I do, I lean into things I love, things from my childhood, things that shape me, my creative my love of creativity, my love of thinking up imagination. That's why I have a Muppet pod, a Disney pod. I do a Pixar rewatch series. I just love animation. I love cartoons. I think they're really great. It's a great medium. And that's what this show is going to be about, bringing on a guest. And they're going to talk with me about their favorite cartoon growing up. And we're going to live watch a couple of episodes. And I am hitting the ground running, because here on this episode, somebody I really wanted to be on the first episode, and he so graciously, was very excited to come on and join me. You all know him from very many pods, somebody that I do get the pleasure to do pods with quite often, especially on the new comics pod, Traders of the Lost Ark. It is Shawn Kidd. Shawn, welcome to the debut episode of Cartoons of Our Youth.
Hey, good evening, Andy. I know you said a few months, but I almost feel like in our separate private chat where we did what we call a Pop Goes to the Basement, but
yes,
the Pop Goes to the Couch chat that we've had for many years. I feel like we've talked in theory about this pod for maybe the last 2 to 3 years, to be honest. But it's kind of weird. Here we are. We're actually going to do it. I can't believe we're going to do it, and we're actually finally here, and I'm actually pretty excited about it. So
yeah,
it's awesome.
I'm excited, and one of the reasons why I'm happy that you're here for the first one. You and I are almost the same age. I'm just a tad older than you, about a year or so. So we grew up watching a lot of the similar things. You may have done more of the comic stuff, but for me, cartoons were always my thing, especially the weekday afternoon cartoons,
Correct.
The cartoons you watched when you came home from school, and what you picked is one of my probably 1A or 1B of my favorite cartoons of all time. So, Shawn, let's get into what you picked, okay? What cartoon did you pick for us to talk about and live watch today?
Well, for me, the after-school, afternoon cartoons, you really have, for me, I mean, you could go with many number of them, but for me, there is no other one you can start with but G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, because that's the only one you can really start with, in my opinion, when you come from our generation, Andy.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. It was huge. It was everywhere. For me, growing up in New York, it was on Channel 11, which is PIX, which is a CW channel now, at 4 o'clock. Transformers was after it. Earlier in the afternoon was, I believe, Mask and Thundercats and Voltron. Yours was so all yours were on the same channel, is what I'm hearing. Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, we had other, like Channel 5, which is now Fox, Channel 9, but 11 was the channel for boys. Like there were other cartoons on other channels, but this was like our age at that time, really geared towards us.
So let me walk you through what I had to go through. So G.I. Joe was on WTTG, Channel 5. Okay. Transformers was on Channel 20, which is WDCA. Mask was also on Channel 20. GoBots was also on Channel 20. Then I would have to go back to WTTG for Transformers. So mine were all over the place, but they were between those two prime channels. So it was my 2 channels in the afternoon I had to switch back and forth to. So they weren't all on the same channel for me.
Did they ever conflict? Like, they ever go up against each other?
Yes, and it was a big problem. So it really became like, but the commercials never synced. So it was like one of those go back and forth, go back and forth, go back and forth scenarios that became a real problem. And then in later years, I would watch it when it became available in like the mainstream form, video cassettes, whatever, that I really truly got caught up on everything because it was very, very hard. Very hard.
Yeah.
Or when you got repeats during the summer because once they went through their first run, you got the repeats, and that's when I got really, truly caught up. So
yeah, they cycle through fairly quickly. I mean, there's a lot of episodes,
like 50,
but
52 episodes, I think they did, and if they did that 5 days a week, it went really, really fast.
Yeah. So you got into it. Plus they would show the movies broken up into parts. Yeah, it was heaven for guys like us growing up. It was like I would come home and quite often I would go out and I play wiffle ball or football, whatever my friends, or I had after school activities, but I was always parked in front of the TV when I was home during these hours because this was what I wanted to watch. It was all about like, and all my friends and I, everybody was into it, and we had a lot of the collectibles. So G.I. Joe, what drew you to G.I. Joe? What about G.I. Joe do you love, and why it's the one choice you had to make here?
Okay. Well, it's war, it's combat, it's evil versus good. The comic book obviously came out in 1982, which I love. The action figures were awesome. The weapons, the machinery, the airplane, the tanks, the cool names that they had for their weapons and their machinery was awesome. The code names they had, obviously, if I want to go characters all time, I mean, how badass is Snake Eyes? You can't go wrong with Snake Eyes. You can't go wrong with characters like Gung Ho. You can't go wrong with characters like Duke or Flint or, then it gets a little butt later on when you get into like, hey, let's add Sergeant Slaughter because, hey, guess what? He's a character from wrestling. He's a sergeant. Let's just put him in G.I. Joe. It makes sense. But what is there not to love? Then you got the evil forces of Cobra. Cobra Commander's a badass. Then you got Destro. Then you got the Baroness. Then you add Zartan and his Swamp Rats. And what is there not to love about this? It's got everything you could possibly want in a freaking cartoon, man. It's just badass.
Yeah, I loved the code names. I loved collecting the figures. You had the little card. I loved the biographies. That for me, if anybody that's talked to me about one thing that always fascinates me, and I would love for there to be a TV show about this, where it's all about people who created universes, right? And you come up with these characters, the vernacular, these places, these things. I know you hate Harry Potter, but like it would be like people like J.K. Rowling and George R.R. Martin, George Lucas, Gene Roddenberry. I mean, Tolkien, C.S. Lewis. They came up with all these worlds and they built these things. And G.I. Joe is one of those things that I love. Yeah, a lot of it was driven by toys and by marketing and all that stuff. But it was so encapsulating, and they they kind of try to be all, we need this person, we need that person. Yeah, sometimes it got a little ridiculous and they kind of scrape the bottom of the barrel at times. It's like, oh, there's a karate guy on Cobra, Ninja, Storm Shadow. We have Snake Eyes, but he's not really a ninja. But let's create Quick Kick, and then so you started to get like the B team started to come in, which was.
And we get a little bit of that tonight. I mean, the guy that they picked for our main character tonight, not one of my favorites, but honestly, the episodes we're watching tonight are considered. This is considered one of the greatest episodes, the greatest stories of the G.I. Joe cartoon series.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into it. So are there any other storylines like we're not covering tonight that you can remember that were some of your favorites?
There are so many, but you know what I really loved, and this is what really got me into this, is they did these mini-series. Like the very first G.I. Joe mini-series they did before they did the full-on episodes, they did 5-day mini-series. And the first one they did, I want to say it was 83, and it was a random afternoon, and I came in from school, and I'm like watching this, and it was before it became a main TV series. And it was something around this weather machine, I think. I don't know if you remember this.
The Mask of Ice?
Yes. It was a 5-part miniseries, and that's where they introduced it as a cartoon. I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then that fall, it debuted as a regular TV. I loved it when they did it. At every season, they debuted their season with a 5-part miniseries.
Yes.
Those were always my absolute favorites. Just because if you put them into one, they became movies. And I love those. And then in later seasons, G.I. Joe, the movie came out. I didn't like that because then you got Sergeant Slaughter into it. And by the way, spoiler alert, I don't know if you remember G.I. Joe, the movie, but it was about Sergeant Slaughter and his cadets on this island, and his main cadet, I don't remember his name, but he was voiced by Don Johnson from Miami Vice.
Oh, geez.
I don't know.
Yeah, the Renegades, they were called.
Yes, yeah, the Renegades, but one of them was Don Johnson.
I remember that. Yeah.
The one with Serpentor where they introduced
wasn't he like Duke's brother or something like that, or something?
Something like that.
Yeah.
The one with Serpentor, so like I remember that one so vividly because it go around and make him like part of all these great famous leaders of the world, which was so like batshit insane. But it's very memorable. So, but like they have a lot of these like different ones that you remember in pockets. But the one thing you always remember about G.I. Joe is knowing is half the battle. Like all those messages.
The PSA, yeah.
PSAs. And then like their little interludes, like when they go to commercials, G.I. Joe will be right back. And it was just so, there's so much great in these shows, man. I just can't say it enough.
Yeah. As I can understand as a comic book guy, like the Infinity Gauntlet, because that's what the mass device was. It was, they had to go around, they had to
collect all the different pieces,
the three catalytic elements.
Yeah.
That's what they had to do. Yeah. That's really cool. And here, we talked about this recently on a recent episode of Trailers of the Lost Ark, where we did G.I. Joe and the Transformers. We talked because when Schiff, read it and Serpentor's in there, he was like, "Who is this guy?" And I tried to explain to him who it was. And I could just imagine the look on his face when he read my explanation in the chat, where he was made from DNA of different ones. So here is. I called up his wiki. So this is where Serpentor came. So it was designed to be the ultimate Cobra leader. Dr. Mindbender and Destro combed the tombs of the greatest leaders in history to find cells with DNA traces. These long dead genetic blueprints were combined to produce a clone with the genius of Napoleon, the ruthlessness of Julius Caesar, the daring of Hannibal, the shrewdness of Attila the Hun. So that's what Serpentor is made up of. Now, pardon my French, would you fuck with that? I wouldn't.
But ultimately, the way he played out, he almost had the mentality of a child, which is really interesting. Like he wasn't very bright in theory. And so it's just fascinating. You know when I correlate G.I. Joe, I think what I latched onto, it reminded me of the military version of Star Wars, where you had good versus evil, you had your main good guys, your main bad guy characters, you had the Jedis versus, it was just, that's what it was. It was military Star Wars, and I just loved it. So,
right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And there was one episode I also talked about this where they and this, I have a question too once we get into this episode about something similar, that where they found out the names of the real names of the Joes, because that's why they had code names, was to protect the family. That's why superheroes have secret identities. And yeah, they got some people. And Shipwreck was one of the main characters in this episode, where Cobra brainwashed basically these family members, and they had them standing in the way of G.I. Joes. And you're not going to fire on your family. That kind of like messed me up as a kid, because I was like it's one of those things like, Dad, if you ever came in front of me, I couldn't do that. Why? One of those things that kind of messed you up.
Well, there's a few things in this episode tonight that are pretty messed up. So
pretty messed up. So before we get to it though, one last thing, you obviously had the we'll call them collectibles, but they're toys. Mm-hmm. Any particular ones that were some of your favorites that you coveted, or any that you coveted that you never got? Because there's a big one that I never got my hands on, and I wanted it so bad.
My favorite, and God, I can't believe I can't remember the name of what they called it, but I had Ace, the fighter pilot, and the plane.
Oh, okay.
The big, huge, gigantic plane. And I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what they call it. I
have the comic here. Let me peruse it really quickly. And I think
Ace was their main pilot.
Yep.
And I had his figure and I had the plane, and I loved it so much. The other one I had from a Cobra standpoint that I really liked was Copperhead and his swamp vehicle, whatever that one was. That was my other favorite. Oh, and by the way, the other thing with the G.I. Joes that I did later in life, as I integrated my love for wrestling and G.I. Joe, my G.I. Joe evolved into my wrestling figures, and I used to reuse them as wrestling figures in my wrestling. When I do wrestling events, I would use G.I. Joe and Cobra as my wrestling figures as well, and I put my two favorite things together, so that was always fun too. I just threw that out there.
I love the Cobra hiss.
Yes, that was great. Yep,
that was a cool one. They had the Fang, the little helicopter was pretty cool. The Dreadnoughts all had cool things. I actually had the hovercraft. It came with a cutter. I also had Well, the polar battle bear, I had that as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Rattler, that was the bomber. It was the Cobra plane, the jet that the wings would turn up and it could
Yes.
drop bombs. I had the Shark, which is in this episode actually, that came with Deep Six. The Sky Striker, I think you're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That was cool. And I had amazingly, I don't know why I got this. The Tomahawk I had also, which was the cool helicopter. And I had
with Wild Bill.
Wild Bill.
Yep.
And I had the bridge layer.
Nice.
Which was, I was like, what's the point of this? Kind of thing as a kid. Like, I think I opened it up on Christmas. I was like, why did I get this one? It's like in 2 episodes or some shit like that. But the one that everybody wanted, and it's in this episode, is the aircraft carrier. It was
gigantic.
It was so, yeah. I mean, I had in my parents' house, we had the room for it in the basement, and it was a lot of money though at the time. I remember, and that was the reason why. I think that's why I got the hovercraft and like a couple of things like to try to make up for it. But yeah, I really wanted that so badly. Oh, so good.
I think it was called the USS Flag. I believe it was.
Yeah, the flag, FLAGG. I think. I had all my GI Joes, and I remember. I would do stuff with them too. I would have them get tortured. I remember I burned Shipwreck because he wouldn't give up the goods, and melt wax and put them in there and things like that. And I did do wrestling with them too also. So
Andy, it's one of those... the USS Flag in 1985, the retail price was $90. Do you know how much it goes for today on eBay?
I want to say $12,000.
No, it only goes about $2,500.
Oh.
So,
hey man, if I hit Mega Millions tonight, I'm buying me one of those.
You'll have to fight me for it.
It's one of those things like you kick yourself. It's like when you think back to your what you had as a kid, and it's like people watch 40-Year-Old Virgin, I played with my toys. I loved my
same here.
Toy. I had such a Star Wars collection. I had such a G.I. Joe collection. I didn't have as many Transformers as one. I had a good amount of mask collectibles too.
Well, I didn't have a lot of Transformers either because they were so expensive.
Yeah, remember they were pricey. I think if I had 10, that was probably the most I had.
And I remember I had Megatron and how fucking complicated it was to get him to turn into a gun. And I was like, God, this is a pain in my ass. I'm just gonna watch the cartoon.
I always had a special place in my heart for Wheeljack and Trailbreaker because they were the first 2 I got as toys. I would get a lot of the smaller ones. Like I'd be out with my dad and we were in Caldor or something like that, and I saw Sea Spray or something like that. I'm like, Dad, could I get this? It's like $5. He's like, yeah, you can get that. I wouldn't really try to get the bigger ones, but yeah, sometimes when those things gave you trouble, they gave you trouble with the.
Well, the small ones are really all you had to do was like they were the car, and all you had to do was pull them out and spread the wheels apart, and they had arms and legs. That's all you had to do. Yeah.
Bumblebee / Goldbug.
Yeah, GoBots were the great value version of Transformers.
I had really a lot of those actually.
Well, yeah, because they were easy and they were cheap.
There was another one too. On Saturday mornings, there was the Mighty Orbots.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and I was watching that until I got hooked on Muppet Babies.
Oh God, that's quite the guardrail to guardrail, Andy.
Hey. I love the Muppet Babies cartoon, man. It was so much fun. And I hosted Muppet Pod, so that Orbots were okay. You know what I mean? But I was like, I already watched GoBots. I already watched Transformers. It was Saturday morning too, so I was like, this is a good side. It was fun because what they did with Muppet Babies was a lot of times they would put them in other stories. Like the Star Wars one was so much fun. That they did with the Muppet Babies.
And by the way, so let's do this. I'll spoiler for you. Do you know who the voice of the woman was in the Muppet Babies? The one that took care of them?
Yeah, that was Barbara Billingsley.
See, I knew if anybody would know who that was, it would be you. So
yeah, that was a big deal.
Beaver's mom. Yep. All right.
Yeah, June Cleaver. Okay, so Shawn, part of the show is we talk, which we've done. And then we live watch 2 episodes at the guest choice. And what episodes or episode, because it's a 2-parter that you picked, did you pick, and how come you picked it?
So this is one of my all-time favorite episodes, and this is actually the final 2 episodes of season 1. And I don't know if you knew this or not. And it's based on not maybe a story, but based on a famous comic book arc from the show. It's the comic book series, and it's based around the town of Springfield, which in the comic books is Cobra's home base. The name of their home base, the code name is Springfield, and it's this neighborhood that they have created that looks normal, but is really their home base of where they train all their Cobra operatives. But it's kind of like it low key is just a normal neighborhood, so it doesn't look like anything's really going on there. So it's pretty cool. So this episode is called, it's a part 1 and part 2. They've gelled it together for part of whatever the 40th anniversary is. It's on the official G.I. Joe channel on YouTube, and it's called There's No Place Like Springfield. So that's what we're watching tonight, part 1 and part 2.
All right. Cool. All right. So we are, I'm like, what's happening? All right. So sorry, I was getting like pings. Sorry about that. Yeah. So we're watching on YouTube on the G.I. Joe official channel. I'm going to have the link in the show description so you can watch along with us. All right, Shawn, you and I are synced up right at the beginning, correct? All right, so let's hit that play button. 3, 2, 1. All right, so I'm playing. I got the G.I. Joe open playing.
Absolutely famous opening here where the sun's behind them and G.I. Joe's charging at Cobra. This absolutely amazing opening for this.
Yes, this was a... You see Quick Kick and Snake Eyes take on the twins, Tomac Zaymot. There's Bazooka, who I love, crazy guy.
Throwing Destro down. And there's Roadblock. Yep.
Mm-hmm. There's the Shark, which could actually fly as well.
Like, how badass is this intro? It's just like hot, like freaking crazy mess.
Mm-hmm. And we get a lot of the big heavy hitters. Oh, I had that guy too, the Green. I had that figure. I forgot his name though. He was like a chemical warfare expert. That's the cool thing too about G.I. Joe is they had like somebody that was an expert in everything. They had a firefighter named Barbecue, for crying out loud.
They did. And the other thing, and we talked about this on a recent comics pod. Yeah, we talked about this on the recent comics pod is Cobra Commander, the guy who did the voice for him, did double duty because on Transformers he also did Starscream. So
yeah. So talk about Cobra Commander. Did you have a preference between the helmet or the hood?
It's interesting. They went back and forth. I preferred the hood.
Oh, really? I preferred the helmet.
I don't know. There was something cool about the hood. The helmet never did it for me, but I thought the hood was more normal than. Yeah. So anyway, we open this one up where it's Lady J and Shipwreck. And by the way, how unoriginal does he call his bird Polly? Very unoriginal. And Polly is kind of an asshole. And he just bit Shipwreck, by the way.
Yes.
So they land on this island on the Shark, and there's this random like nutso professor guy. What's his name? Trying to remember what his name is in this. It's
they'll say it in a second in the closed captioning.
Dr. Mulaney is his name.
Professor Mulaney. Yeah, he kind of looks like the old guy. If you ever saw History of the World Part 1, the old guy in the French Revolution scene.
Yeah.
I just kind of add now. Jesus, I'm skipping it though.
Oh, really? Okay, so that's weird because I don't get ads on mine. But
we might get a little out of sync. So I'll try.
It's all right. It's all right. But they just go to this random island, and this guy's here, and so now I guess he called them, and they're syncing up with him, and he's talking to them about this secret weapon that he's been working on, or the secret formula for Cobra that basically bonds oxygen and hydrogen and turns water and air into a bomb.
And it's in his head, and nobody can get if he falls into the wrong hands and they get the information out, like extract it from his brain, then it's always the one weapon that Cobra will take over the world with. But usually what the crux is.
This. Like in 1986, I'm 13, so I want you to think about it overcomplicated and thinking about. God, think about what kind of plot this is for a 13-year-old to filter through in his head. That's really like kind of crazy plot, right?
Well, I mean, the catalytic elements in the mass, weapon thing, that was a lot for me to understand.
But that's one of the reasons why I love G.I. Joe. They made you think. It wasn't just like a simplistic, hey, let's go to war and have guns and good guys versus evil. And by the way, so now this crazy ass just took like this device and he just transplanted this formula password into Shipwreck's head.
Of all people, Shipwreck.
And by the way, Shipwreck's kind of a dick too. He's a very sarcastic, very condescending individual.
Well, he's a sailor, so.
Yeah, but he's not a very likable guy at all.
Now, where's Lady J on you? Is she above Scarlet or below Scarlet in your?
Actually, in the TV, I would almost say in the cartoons, she trumps Scarlet. Because I think her and Flint almost overtake Duke and Scarlet, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they have more personality. Like I said, like if you think about like Ocean's 11, Duke is like Danny Ocean, but Flint's like Rusty, and everybody like loved Rusty a little bit more, I think.
And Scarlet and Snake Eyes take center stage more in the comic books, and Flint and Lady J. Snake Eyes was early on, but as the cartoon series goes on, it's more about Flint than it is Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes doesn't really take center stage a whole lot as the cartoon series goes on.
Well, the rosters are so big.
Yes.
In terms of that, like Cobra's roster doesn't get that big, but G.I. Joe's roster is pretty big to the point where it doesn't get stale. Like you can have like just a little pairing of Lady J and Shipwreck to carry the bulk of this. I mean, there are going to be other Joes in this episode, but you can have an episode where you have, Mutt and Bazooka and Rakondo and Stalker and like as like a little team. That was one thing I loved about Mask. Was Mask like they took out that fancy briefcase computer and was like, give me the agents for this mission. So they purposely told you we're gonna, mix it up here. Here it's just like all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're with these two now.
Yeah, so Cobra just attacked them because they want this doctor's formula, and they attacked them, and now they got separated. What I love here is that like Shipwreck just left Lady J to carry this professor like on her own, which is a typical dickhead move of him. And the other thing you never see is anyone really dies. So you see this Cobra ship, like airship, get shot. But right at the last minute before it hits the cliff, you see the guy eject the parachute out because they always have to make a point to show that.
Yeah, nobody ever dies in G.I. Joe. People just get hurt.
It was like the A-Team. You never saw anybody die. You always saw them run away from the wreck. It's like they do the same thing on this cartoon. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, I thought you had it under control. That's what he's like, yeah, you look fine to me. And then they get attacked again.
I love that, like in the A-Team. Hey, we fought in the Vietnam War and kill all these people, but we'll never show anybody dying when we blow up all the Jeeps. It's great. But yeah, it's very similar on this show. So anyway, they all got split up, and now the doctor's missing. So it's just Lady J and Shipwreck and the stupid parrot. I hate the parrot, by the way. I've always hated the parrot, Polly the parrot.
Yeah, I had like I said, I had Shipwreck and I had Polly. They came in the.
So did you like? Did you like Shipwreck? Because for me, it's weird because when I was looking at this episode, I didn't realize it was the last two episodes of season one because I thought Shipwreck was more of a season 2 character, and I never really saw him as one of the main guys. And then when I realized he was the main character in this, it kind of took me back, and I go, "Holy shit! I forgot Shipwreck was the main guy in this."
I remember Shipwreck. I don't dislike Shipwreck, but I could see your point, seeing he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah, he was never one of my favorites. And there's Major, our big Major guy. Was it Major Blood? Is that his name?
Major Blood, yeah. He was like in terms of the hierarchy, he's like third or fourth in terms of the Cobra rankings, I guess.
Yep. The other thing I loved about G.I. Joe, the animation is really, really good. Like, it's really good for 1986 and for being syndicated 52 episodes a season. Really, really great animation.
Yeah.
Great. It's great lasers. Yeah.
Aircraft carrier. Yeah. There's Flint finally on the deck.
Yep. The USS Flag. And now, holy shit, they're in deep shit now because they're about to get bombarded in their little shark craft.
Yeah. I had Shark and came with Deep Six, who was part of who we do see also in this episode.
Yep. And that's what was great about G.I. Joe too. Their commercials for their toys were amazing because they don't always show them like out in the woods, in the water. You got a Starcraft and they're showing it like in a creek or something. Yeah.
I mean, you're like me, probably too. You look forward to like the Sears catalog or whatever it was, the Toys R Us big book coming every year, and they had them all like set up, like on a set. Yes. Oh my god, that was like, and the thing was huge too, the book, and I was like. And you just sit there and you're like, oh my god, I got to get this one, I got to get that one, and then you're hoping like on Christmas that, you're trying to feel the gift and like, does it feel like a figure? Like, do I feel like the plastic and all that? There's Roadblock, which I was fine with him casting The Rock as Roadblock. I just didn't like him being like the lead in that second G.I. Joe movie, which still hate anyway. But
well, the G.I. Joe movies do not do it. I mean, that's a whole separate thing. They don't do it justice at all. So.
Yeah, that's like a chicken salad. a popcorn chicken salad type discussion there.
Yep. So now Shipwreck is in trouble because his shark, they've been hit, and the USS Flag is on fire, and he's stuck in the water, and he can't get out of the shark, and he's about to go down and drown in the water. He's in deep shit.
He's trapped basically. Lady J and Polly are out, and he's trapped, and now there's like an onslaught where they can't get to him right now because there's too much fire coming from the Cobra jets and bats and all that stuff.
And goddamn Polly's like, abandoned ship, and Shipwreck's like, I can't, you dumb motherfucker. And then so this is what I always love. G.I. Joe will return after these messages. Like, they made it so intense going to commercial, and when it came back, they just made it so intense.
Yeah, the cliffhanger. They would always end on a button.
Now look at this shit. We come back. We went to commercial. Shipwreck's drowning. We come back for a commercial, and he wakes up in this random hospital that's called Springfield Medical Center.
Yes, and there's some blonde nurse.
Yeah, and when I watched this for the first time when I'm 13, I'm like, what the hell? I don't know what's going on here. This is odd.
Like, did they make a mistake? Like, did they put the wrong show in the tape deck or something?
Yeah, so there he wakes up with bandages on his head, and the first thing you notice is his beard is gray. And when you're 13, you don't notice that, but as an adult, you see there's some time that passed here.
Yeah, and then they also call him Mr. Delgado, and I'm like they never mention they hardly ever mention their real names.
Yeah, and his name is Hector, and his wife and his kid is here. Mara, his wife, and his kid is here. And
he's like, now we get like the back is like, I guess his wife drowned, and he doesn't remember his daughter.
And by the way, I love that his daughter is dressed like she came out of like a 1950 Shirley Temple movie, and it's 1980. It's like, hey, we got to make home the point that she's a kid. Let's dress her up as Shirley Temple.
Also, though, I think she's dressed like him because she's got the sailor suit on.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's a little ridiculous. And so now she's telling the backstory that supposedly the USS Flag went down, and apparently at the last minute he escaped. So that's what Mara, his wife, is supposedly telling him happened right now. Which is kind of cool that they kind of did this backstory. They showed him breaking off the lever of the ship and breaking the window to escape. And then he supposedly got marooned on an island, and he was there for this long period of time. And then he built this raft like Robinson Crusoe. Like, this is some crazy shit, Andy.
Well, like Castaway. Yeah, like Tom Hanks here.
Like, this is nuts. Like, imagine, like I said, as a 13-year-old, this is some complex writing for an afternoon cartoon show.
Yeah, this is like stuff like you could see now, like in a Netflix like live action show.
Totally. This isn't like your typical like Bugs Bunny Looney Tunes afternoon cartoon, you know? This is like some high level shit.
Imagine if somebody took like every episode of like a cartoon like this and did a live action like drama like on Netflix or something.
Yeah. And so she's telling this whole story like he single-handedly took down Cobra. Cobra no longer exists. G.I. Joe disbanded, and now they're living this whole happy life in this town of Springfield. This has all happened since he drowned in this shark, like literally right before our commercial break 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, like 6 years worth of backstory we just got in about 2 minutes.
And now here's Doc, who was the doctor for G.I. Joe. He's the Doc in Springfield.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And now he's no longer is he the military, doctor. He's now the resident here, I guess, the chief of medicine.
Which, if I'm Shipwreck, I believe he's the one that's been taking care of me. And it's like, you think everything's hunky-dory right now. So you're like, gee, I wonder what the hell's going on.
Yeah, like what happened? Like this, like I don't want to see G.I. Joe like living in Springfield and being like all normal and shit.
Yep. And this is what's cool about the whole Springfield thing. What you're seeing in this cartoon, Andy, this is what Cobra had set up in the comics as the facade of what their home base was. This is what it was. Yeah. Pretty genius if you're this evil like faction looking to take over the world. It's pretty amazing.
Well, yeah. Well, it looks like a Stepford type situation or like any kind of those movies where it's like too good to be true kind of thing.
Yep.
So and then Polly's in there. Yeah.
And I love the decorations on the wall. Like, is he a safari hunter? Is he in the Navy? Like, And here comes Aunt Scarlet just pulling up with her crossbow randomly on the front of the hood of her car to take Mara shopping. That's really odd. I mean,
yeah, it's like, oh, we're retired, but let's put our old lives here into this. And it's not very safe there to have the kid sitting in the front seat there with no seatbelts. That's something that wouldn't fly today, having characters in a car without seatbelts.
Yeah. What do you think about that purple couch he's laying on?
That's something with the pistols and the ship wheel on there on the wall.
All right, so
now we get
go ahead.
Now we get the lamp like with some kind of beam.
So he falls off the couch, and the ambulance pulls up. They load him on the ambulance. Polly's sitting there talking some whatever shit. Now the ambulance is driving away with him. Like, this is like some batshit crazy stuff.
It's like, what did Polly do here? Like, what's going on?
Ambulance drives him into the car wash. The car wash opens to this underground garage, and now they're driving him into this underground bunker in the car wash. And now you know, okay, something's not right here.
Mm-hmm. And Doc is just so like stoic right there.
And there's Cobra Commander with a gun to Shipwreck's face, asking him, what did the doctor tell you? So they're trying to get the code word out of Shipwreck's head of what the formula is, because they need a code word to make the formula to make the bomb.
Yes, and Cobra Commander has his helmet on right now.
Yep. And then lo and behold, Shipwreck wakes up and he's back home.
And it's like, oh my God, was it a nightmare? And in comes the wife. Oh, Hector, darling.
Yeah, and then there's the creepy little girl standing out by the window in the dark. Like, there's something creepy about the young girl. It's strange.
With the creepy anglerfish right there too.
Yeah.
Like,
and by the way, I know any home just randomly has a parrot just flying around. I mean, that's not odd at all, right?
No. I mean, look, I think if you have a bird, I guess you tend to let them go. I mean, I've had friends who have had birds, not my preference.
Well, we had a parrot when I was growing up, and
I caught
it stayed in a cage. It stayed in a cage most of the time, but when they let it out of the cage, all it did was stand on top of the cage. It didn't really go anywhere, but it had its wings clipped too.
I found a parrot once. We saw a parrot on my street. It must have gotten out, and I caught it. Yeah, well, somehow I went and I put a raincoat on, and I got it to like get on my arm, and I went home and I took my dog's cage out of the basement. I threw a broomstick through it and put the parrot in there. And then my grandmother sold it and never gave me the money.
Yeah.
That's a whole Talk of Pop episode, me just talking about my crazy Jewish grandmother.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shipwreck, has a thing with the daughter, and he's trying to like, they have the marriage, wedding photo there, and he's like, couldn't imagine this is the life he was going to have. He thought he was going to be on the seas this whole time. And he's starting to beat himself up about how he doesn't remember anything. Yeah, looks like he has a whole wedding party. It looked like it was like Duke and Flint and Roadblock and who was the other one? We're going to see him in a second because I don't recognize him because he doesn't have his Joe uniform.
So look, they just drugged him again with the damn coffee, and he's down for the count again on his way to the damn car wash.
God,
this is a crazy bad. This is bad shit, Andy.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like this drug haze. Like and look, their house is burning with his kids. Like, this is crazy. This is almost traumatizing for a 13-year-old. This would give you nightmares.
Yeah, and then the twins are there too. Who you said you didn't like, Tomax and Zaymot?
No, they're not. No, I think it was Tim that said he didn't like them.
Tim didn't like it. Yeah,
I no. On the cartoon, they're a little annoying because they finish each other's sentences. Like, one will talk, the other one will finish.
Yeah, they will.
They get a little annoying after a while.
So here's Torpedo and Deep Six. I guess they basically took all like the main seagoing G.I. Joes and put them into business together.
Yes, which makes. Oh, by the way, and this is Flint with his new girlfriend, and Shipwreck makes some kind of inappropriate comment about her being a better looking Lady J, and Flint gets very offended.
Yeah, he does.
Basically decks Shipwreck, which was so random. Like, what was that? That's so random.
And you see like you look like Flint's like a sugar daddy too, because you got this chick with this short skirt and the boots, and
Yeah.
I guess he didn't realize Lady J was dead.
Like who knew Flint would become Bruce Wayne when he retired from G.I. Joe? That's what he reminded me of. So Flint's like, God, man, I pissed him off. I mean, so Lady J died. Is that what we're hearing here?
They told him Lady J, in the story here, Lady J's dead.
Yeah, I mean, they're really fucking with them mind wise. Oh, here he is running into the car wash. Car wash.
Yeah, now he's starting to like make sense to him.
Oh, and there's Roadblock going into the car wash.
Yeah, let's just go in there.
Just randomly. He's just randomly going through. All he wants his car is his watch, man. It's just Roadblock.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's warm out, so it's summertime. You go get your car washed, right?
And now Roadblock just melted.
Boy, that sure was toasty. And it was like, what the hell? And you're like, what? Wait a second. This is some effed up shit here.
Now everybody's attacked. Now Shipwreck's getting attacked and punched.
They're like a bunch of randos here.
And now he's in jail. Now they're offering him a tuna sandwich. Like, I can't keep track of this, Andy. It's nuts. And we haven't even got, like, this isn't even 20 minutes into this yet. Like, think about how much has happened.
Oh, God. You think jail tuna would be worse than gas station sushi?
Oh, well, I don't know, because he just got drugged on the tuna, and now he's falling through his jail cell, and he's about to be attacked by his former Joe mates.
Yes, he falls down. There's Scarlet, Torpedo, Duke, and Flint all attacking him.
And now they're all melting as he fights them.
Yeah, like all they really need to do is like knock them down, and then they melt.
And now it comes down to him and Scarlet, and he doesn't want to fight Scarlet.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to hit a woman.
Yeah.
She calls him Plankton Face.
I mean, literally, I want to go back to think about being a 13-year-old on a freaking Monday afternoon watching this, and just, this is a big, huge mind fuck is what it is.
Well, with the Joes being like attacking Shipwreck and then all of a sudden turning into like pinkish purple goo.
They're melting and they're basically mind torturing this guy. I mean, this is a lot. And really makes you realize how evil Cobra is in retrospect. They're really evil. Yeah.
I mean, and they go through all the trouble to making these like G.I. Joe things, wax figures, whatever you want to call them, and they're not very durable.
And now they gel together.
Yes.
And they're attacking him as one.
This was creepy.
Yes. It's like the Blob. It's like
Blob. You're being attacked by like, this is something you see like in a horror movie, and they engulf him basically.
And they go through the wall, and it's to be continued. And obviously, since they linked them together, we go right into part 2 as he's going down this big
cliffhanger right here.
Yeah. And now as he's going down this big, huge slide, he's having all these memories of everything that's happening as he's encompassed in this big freaking
like one of those marble things, like you send like a marble down on like a trackway or something.
Now he's going down the sewage. And now he's popping out of the sewage into this random grass field.
In another part of Springfield.
And now it just goes. And now this gel just goes down to this. I mean, I would have lost my mind at this point.
Yeah, this was mind blowing.
But it's really good stuff in retrospect. This is really like they could make a movie out of this. Oh, look, he's about to backhand his wife and kid.
Yeah, I mean, you could, if you sat there and went through, look, somebody could make a really good G.I. Joe movie, or even a live act, like I said, a live action TV show. I was kidding with that, but somebody, if you're tasked to make that, if I was ever, like I said, one of my dream things would be to write a mask movie, because it's not a very known property today, right? You would sit there, I would watch all these episodes, and I would just write down the best ones, the best parts, and I would plot out a whole bunch of movies with it, and this definitely would be in there.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how they went so wrong. And by the way, so we're just now realizing that Polly and they just went to Doc. Now you realize that Cobra's behind everything that's going on here, just because there's Cobra. And so that's interesting. So now you see Hooded Commander. Yeah. They're behind this whole thing and this whole facade just because they want to get this formula out of his brain. But it makes you also wonder how they could get a G.I. Joe movie so wrong, right? Because They have all this source material just from the comics, just from the cartoons. I'll be honest with you. I did not hate the Snake Eyes movie.
I know. I actually liked it.
I did too. I thought it was actually really well done. I did not hate it at all. So.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with Transformers. There's such source material, and you go and you do all this. And, I mean, part of it too was the screenwriters were, Roberto Orci, who is he's from Alias. You look up his IMDb. He did like Star Trek and stuff. He was a big time. He was one of the big main blockbuster writers at the time. Such an ego though. They're like, why wouldn't you? They're like, because people have problems with Megatron not transforming into a gun, and he's like, well, that would be like if Darth Vader transformed into his lightsaber. I'm like, no, Dick, it's not the same thing. Okay, you could have put him. Yeah, you could have made him into like a cannon, something similar, not a jet. Megatron was never a jet.
Okay, so this gets really weird, Andy. So here's what they're doing. So they got Shipwreck in, and they're going to do this interrogation on him. And they brought in this rando female hot, I guess, trainee.
Yeah, who was part of the Crimson Guard, which was the elite, like not the grunts of Cobra. If you were the Crimson Guard, you were like a higher level.
Yeah, but she's going to do this like really like mental interrogation of him.
Yeah.
And they brought her in to do it as part of her training. Like, this is some like really like disturbing shit they're doing.
But she's exposed to the same things that they're exposing Shipwreck to.
And they don't care. They don't care.
Well, they did say that she might not be ready to handle it, and they're right.
So they're going back to his past, so you see his whole history here. I mean, this is just like really good shit.
Yeah, they give the whole backstory of like how he grew up outside San Diego, and that's where the Navy is, and that's how he wanted to be, a sailor, and he enlisted in the Navy at 16. He lied about his age.
Yep.
And you see him like doing all of his things with the in the Navy and the Coast Guard or whatever, and then he's G.I. Joe, and now we get to when he was with the Doctor.
And it's funny, he's just laying there saying, I don't know, because the reality is he does not know the password, because the one that knows the password is Lady J.
Yeah.
And the only way that it comes out is when Lady J says the password in front of him, but Cobra doesn't know that. So, yes. But yeah, this is good. This is good stuff.
It's like basically finding a safe and not having the combination.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's doing it hard to him now.
And so now they're turning on the Doctor here, and they're like, no, Doctor, the problem is you, and you have developed opinions, and you're not allowed to have opinions. And so they shoot him, and he melts. So basically all these G.I. Joe figures, or what all these clones are, they're called synthezoids, I believe is what they're called. And they're just clay figures is really what they are. So... yeah, and now she's going full power on him, which is not good.
Yeah, they're like living, basically AI that are there, and then all these, you got all these like floating like images or whatever, and then we get another commercial break. Yeah, that's the other thing too, was we didn't have a lot of commercial breaks in these shows.
Well, I'm glad for you too, also, because we're watching this on YouTube. You only had the one commercial break, and you haven't had one since. So
yeah, I only had the one ad, so I'm only probably a few seconds behind you.
Yes, so I guess, by the way, now she's mounting him, which was really odd in retrospect watching this now. She's on top of him, like she's,
Yeah, you think...
like weird, like, no, this is kind of weird, almost sexually looking at this. This is really odd.
A childhood fantasy coming true here for us here.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like the rando hot Cobra cadet on top of me. Yeah, you could, if you wanted to go there, we could do that, yes. We won't, because this is a cartoon pod, but you could if you wanted to, yes. But yeah, all these visuals, this is like...
yeah, you get the serpent, and you get the flag, and you get Polly, evil-looking Polly, too, here.
I mean, if you were in the 60s, and you like to get high, and you watch this cartoon episode, you'd probably have a really good time. It'd almost be like watching The Wizard of Oz while I listen to the Pink Floyd album.
I'm going to say I've never watched cartoons Inhibited, but...
this one's pretty interesting. This is a good one, Andy.
Yeah. I mean, and all, too bad I didn't go out earlier. Today's the day that, legal recreational marijuana sales went into effect here in Connecticut. I could have gone this morning prepared.
I saw a thing on the sales for today out there. So yeah.
Yeah, $250,000 in the first 8 hours in sales.
Yeah, so I guess the reason why I like that hood is because, it reminds me a little bit of early Jason, Friday the 13th, before he did the hockey mask, because he did the old, what was it, the sack on his head face. Yeah. And it also has the Cobra's emblem on the hood. I kind of think that's badass.
Well, also you could see his eyes. I do see that. You could see like a little more like emotion. It's not just this silver plate.
Yep.
So yep. I would always want to know though, what makes the deciding factor on hood versus helmet.
And they never really distinguished how it went back and forth. So
yeah, there's Baroness, who's sneakily hot too, also.
Yeah, it's funny. I was about to say very underrated Hachi. If you got all right, I mean, you could almost do one of those FMK things with her, Lady J, and Scarlet if you really wanted to.
Yeah, you could actually.
Yeah.
Maybe
but we'll keep it clean.
After we did that with Peanuts, I was like, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah. We'll keep it clean. So
yeah, we don't get a lot of Cobra different characters near. It's mostly the twins, a little Destro. No dreadnoughts in this episode.
No, and that's what I like. This is remember I again going back to the comics pod. One of the things I said about some of the comic books is they did kind of singular character focused driven stories. The cartoon did that too. Like this one is very singular focused on Shipwreck, but you get an intermingle of some of the main characters. You got Cobra Commander, you got the twins, you got Baroness, you got some Lady J. So it's singular focused, but you got the main characters in it, which I really like. I really like that.
Definitely, yeah. I do love the design of Tomax and Zaymon, how they actually are mirror images of each other, and the only way you can tell them apart is Zaymon has a scar.
Yes, and by the way, now Shipwreck is catching on to what's going on. He just threw water on his face, and he saw the dye come out of his beard. He's catching on to what's going on here finally.
And he's like, wait a second.
Yeah. So he's like, I've had enough of this bullshit. And by the way, I love how the water just randomly got everything out of his hair and everything out of his beard so fast. Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of splashes right on his face, and boom, he's no longer gray.
And Polly's just sitting there going, "What's going on, Sailor? What's going on, Sailor?" It's been annoying. I feel like cartoon parrots have a bad rap because between this guy and the parrot in Aladdin, they're very annoying creatures.
Iago's meant to be annoying.
Now this is hilarious. Like he realizes that the nurse just gave, the milk is drugged, and so does he at this point. So now he randomly accosts the nurse. And he forces the nurse to drink the milk. This is really bad. It's disturbing. And Polly's getting upset. Hey, get off the nurse.
and then Polly, goes in and tries to attack him. He's like, whose side are you on? And all of a sudden, we get another.
And now all of a sudden, the real Polly just shows up so randomly. Like, where did he come from? And by the way, he's got this random weapon in his like this is so out of nowhere. This is not. Where has he been the whole time, Andy?
I have no idea. He just shoots the other Polly, who didn't melt initially when he got hit against the wall.
So this is where it kind of stops making total sense for me. Like, okay, so first off, accosting the nurse and making her drink the milk, that's a little weird. And then the real Polly just randomly decides to show up out of nowhere for no reason. I mean, that's just weird, right? Very weird.
And he puts her on the bed, and she looks like she's lying in a casket.
Yeah, this is just odd to me. So, hey, conveniently, Shipwreck has figured out that this is all bullshit, and then randomly the real Polly just decides to show up. I mean, it's just,
Yeah, a little bit of convenience. And now the nurse is blonde. The nurse was a brunette a minute ago.
Correct. And by the way, there is a website for G.I. Joe fandom. If you go back, it'll pick out every single episode and the things that are botched in each cartoon based on the episode you're watching. So that's always fun to go back and watch. What you just brought up was actually brought up for this episode.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, those things are pretty cool. I was going to bring it up, but yes, those are in there too. That's all.
Oh, so is it supposed to be the same nurse throughout the whole episode? Because she was blonde earlier, and then she's brunette for a minute, and now she's blonde again.
And by the way, I also love that whatever perspective you look at, like the parrot on his shoulder looked like a parakeet, about the size of a parrot at that one point.
He just like grabs him. Now the parrot's like kind of like, it looks like almost like it's something like for like Thundercats, like that bird character,
yes.
like when he had the close up.
Hey, Andy, you know what else I love is like apparently he's been back for some time, right? He had the bandages on his head. He's been in Springfield. Like I assume like weeks or days have passed at this point.
Yeah.
And he's wearing the same exact clothes that he's worn since he's come out of this coma. Like his clothes haven't changed. He's wearing the same outfit.
Well, the kids got the sailor outfit.
Yes, they all wear the same exact outfits they've worn since the day.
And they hide out at the car wash. How convenient that the car wash is next to the hospital.
Car wash. Yeah, he's got into the car wash now. Oh, amen. I mean, it has to be. hey, look, they're doing the old chicken fight with synthezoids on the table with the dreadnoughts.
That's right. We do get the dreadnoughts here. The pseudoplasm, they're calling it.
Synthezoids in these tubes. Pseudoplasms, and then you see them take form conveniently just as Shipwreck comes into the room.
Yes.
So all this convenience to wrap the episode up, this is taking me out a little bit, but you also have to suspend disbelief because they have to wrap up the story in 2 parts. Mm-hmm. So, and
we see the map right out of like an 80s video game.
That's what I was going to say. I said very Atari-ish Springfield map here. Yeah.
Springfield.
Yes. And so, hey, the other thing by Springfield, do you know why they named the town Springfield? Here's a bit of trivia for you.
That I didn't know.
So the reason why they named it Springfield in the comic.
Hello.
They wanted to make it so normal in the comics and the cartoon that they named it Springfield, and that's one of the same reasons why the Simpsons named their town Springfield as well.
Okay, what was that? You dropped out for a second. What was the reason?
Because every town in America has a Springfield, is the theory.
Oh, okay.
So they named this one Springfield in the G.I. Joe comics, and that's also the same reason why they named Springfield in the Simpsons as well. Every town has one.
Okay. There you go.
Yep.
I thought I had heard that before. Like it's just that way you can't really pinpoint where it is. Like you don't have like you don't think it's like they're supposed to be doing this because it's New York though, or Springfield, Massachusetts, Springfield, Missouri. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like hypothetically every area has an Elm Street.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals with Springfield. Oh, and by conveniently, Shipwreck has stumbled upon the book for the formula at the same time.
And it just happens to be open to the page that he needs it to.
Correct. And by the way, conveniently, Cobra forces are about to come in a room so they could get the password out of his head while he's standing over the formula.
And he's starting to read out the formula too. Now he's all of a sudden he remembers the formula. Yeah,
this is one of those tropes in these cartoons that you have to suspend disbelief because you only have 22 minutes of episode to wrap everything up. So
yes.
Yeah. Oh, and look, there's everybody. There's Destro, there's Zartan, there's the Dreadnoughts.
Yeah, Economy. Yeah, and they're all just like standing there. Like, hey.
So now he dumps the formula down the drain and he lights a match. And Destro is going to call his bluff and say, oh, you can't do that because you don't have blah, 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 blah.
Destro with the chain around his neck with the big D on it, by the way.
And by the way, Destro's voice in the cartoon was pretty badass, too. He had very well voiced.
Destro was so badass because he was just in it for the money.
Yeah, and he was constantly at odds of how to take down Cobra Commander. He was never in it. He was more like a bounty guy. He just wanted money.
Well, he's a weapons dealer.
Yeah, and him and Baroness. Oh, and by the way, now they're blowing up the whole town. He's blowing up the whole town with this formula.
Yeah, because Destro knows that a match ain't going to do it. It's got to be a spark from a gunshot. Apparently.
And the USS Flag is just randomly sitting in the water this whole time. Like a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense to wrap this up. It's just odd.
Yes, a lot of conveniences here.
And they conveniently also have a doctor on their ship where before they had no idea where he was. It's just like a lot of stuff doesn't make sense.
I mean, they couldn't give the doctor like a cup of coffee and maybe
a shower, a shave.
Yeah.
Did you show him a bathroom? Maybe some shoes. So, and then it makes you question how much time has really passed at this point because it seems like everything is kind of status quo, right? It's just there's a lot of flaws in this second part, but it doesn't take away from how great and how great the actual thought process of this whole thing is. And now he's running to his house because his house is on fire. And this is where it gets really fucked up. He runs into the house and it's burning, and his fucking wife and kid are standing there with fucking weapons drawn on them.
Yes.
This is fucked up.
Definitely, for sure.
This is like some Children of the Corn evil shit right here.
Yeah. It's kind of like that episode I was telling you about where it's like your family's there and they got the guns drawn and you can't fight them. And
did you notice when the parrot shot, the daughter was already gone, and they didn't show him shooting the daughter? Did you notice that?
No.
So now the house explodes, and his daughter and his wife are dead. Lady J and Flint run up to him, and he stares at the house that's burning. And she looks at Shipwreck and goes, "Shipwreck, what happened? Was there something important in the house?" And he goes, "Yeah, nothing important." And he looks like he's crying and he goes, "Just a dream or two." And then the music and the house burns, and that's it. The episode's over, fades out, and that's it. That's how they end it, with kind of a sad ending, because he had this whole hope and dream of having a family, and it just kind of dies out for him. That's it.
Yeah,
sad.
The only reason it was there was
very sad.
We return after these messages. I think we just come back, for the credits. Yeah.
So really, really sad in theory ending, but really a great, great episode. Really, really good stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of really great choice here.
Yeah. One of my favorites and one of the best written episodes, and take away all the things that don't make sense to wrap it up like in a short 10 minutes in this last episode. Really well done. Really great cartoon.
Yeah. I don't have enough to watch. I got to go break out my G.I. Joe DVD collection now. I have the complete seasons.
It's almost like I could do a whole pod on rewatching this whole goddamn show. So, but I won't. But I'll probably go back and rewatch the cartoon now, because now that it's out there, I'm gonna have to do it.
Yeah. Well, nobody says that we can't do multiple episodes on the same cartoon. So
we might have to, because when I return, I'm obviously gonna pick something else when I come back. But we'll probably revisit G.I. Joe at some point, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, and if it ever goes on streaming, there is a certain platform that maybe we could get on there to do episodes, because I would definitely do I would set it up to do like my afternoons. Like I would do like a G.I. Joe, a Transformers, a Thundercats.
Well,
and
what we might do is maybe if we found some of those early miniseries combined as a movie, we could do one of those or something like. We'll figure that out. We might.
Yeah, There's the world is our oyster. There's so many cartoons out there, so many things to talk about, and that's my hope for this is just people coming on here, reliving their childhood, sharing their love of their cartoons, because who doesn't like cartoons? Or if you don't watch cartoons now, you did watch cartoons at some point in your life, right? Everybody's watched them. It was a big deal. Saturday mornings, you got up, you got your bowl of cereal, and you parked yourself, man, for until 12 o'clock till the live action stuff started, right? That was, and then coming home from school in the afternoon, even in college, I would come home from class, I would watch the Disney afternoon. I would, partake in certain herbal things to enhance my watching of Gummy Bears and Rescue Rangers and stuff. But yeah, it's still love the stuff.
Hey, by the way, I'm embarrassed to admit it, but for Saturdays, I went out of my way to watch Gummy Bears. But that's a whole separate section. Maybe we can watch that one day. We'll talk about that.
Hey, you know what? Cartoon animation gets a bad rap sometimes, but there is so much greatness out there in that medium. There's so many. Look, I will give anybody gives me an opening, I will talk about the greatness of cartoons, whether it's shows or movies. I want people to watch the movie Hoodwinked. It is such an underrated animated movie.
I have seen Hoodwinked. I watched it with my son when he was younger. So
I love that. I wish I could have been on the Mount Rushmore to explain it, because nobody's like, I never saw it. You people have not lived. I'm telling you. Anyway, that was a really fun episode, a really great discussion. So before we call it a day here, Shawn, is there anything you want to direct people to that you've been working on lately? Any pods that are dropping on a regular basis? Any social medias, anything like that?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about pods. The main two pods that I do at this point now, I do the 7 Months of Danger on NoSo, where we go back and look at the formation of the Dangerous Alliance. So you can catch us over there. We do that drops every 2 weeks over there. That's kind of like a mini series. I think that's like a 23 episode run. So I think at the point of this recording, we're about to drop episode number 11. So we're about halfway through that. The other one is here on the pop feed that I believe by the probably around episode number 3, which is great. That'll correlate with this episode, Traders of the Lost Ark. The one that will be on around the same time as this one or whatever that'll correlate is we did G.I. Joe and the Transformers, which is a fantastic listen. When you go out of your way to listen to that, and then go and listen to this because I think they go hand in hand very, very, very well, Andy. When we recorded this, we actually did that pod and recorded that one last night, so it was kind of cool that we got to do that back to back to back, and it actually probably enhanced this one for me too. So that was a lot of fun. So go out of your way to listen to that. That's a fun pod to do where we go back and look at these random arcs from comics, and that was episode number 3, and that was fun to do. So go listen to those 2 pods. Those are really good things to do. So
yeah, you guys threw me a bone by doing that one for me. I do look forward though. I've had so much fun doing this. The first 2 episodes, reading stuff I never read before, and this one was revisiting my youth, and I got to talk a lot. Probably the one episode I will talk the most on. I will, probably be in the more back into my newbie chair, and Tim and I kind of switched roles a little bit on that episode, which was a lot of fun. Tim actually did enjoy it too, being the one to ask questions and learn some things. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love doing pods with Shawn, Schiff, and Tim. Unfortunately, scheduling, it was really hard to keep up with the Pop Goes to the Couch. We are hoping to get back to that, at least to make it like a once in a while pod where we just talk about our favorite streaming shows.
Well, and in the problem, there were so many coming at once too that it was so hard for everybody to keep up on watching everything because everything came at once. There was a lot.
yeah. And we all, and also like when you're doing something like with the Netflix stuff, it was like a lot of pressure to like, oh, we need you to watch these episodes so we could do the pods. It's like, oh, I got us all this shit to do. And so yeah, it just became a lot, but we may do like, if we can make it work, just do catch up episodes where we just talk about stuff that we've been streaming and kind of go out there and talk about things we didn't really get a chance to talk about, like She-Hulk or, finish up Moon Knight, Cobra Kai.
We don't have to talk about Moon Knight and She-Hulk. I mean,
well, it's always fun. It's fun to like talk about what you didn't like about things. Cause,
I know, I'm kidding.
Because we got the Mark over there who loves everything except for stuff that we grew up on. That seems to be the stuff he doesn't like is what we.
But that's his lot in the group, and that's okay. Yeah. That's what he's there for, and I'm okay with it. So
yeah. And I come from the non-comics perspective, so I'm like the blank slate coming into things. So
that's why people have to go listen to the latest Traders, because the shoe's on the other foot, which is why it's so good. That's one of the reasons why it worked so well. So
yes, it is awesome. Also, just check out other pods I have. I have the Disney pod I co-host with Miranda and Steve. We just dropped Hercules recently. Our next episode will be Mulan, the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, Muppetational podcast with Miranda and I. We finished season 1 of The Muppet Show, so we will be doing a live watch of the Muppet movie. So that will drop as a pod at some point. Also, check out Laugh in Theater is going to be coming back. My Pixar live watches are dropping quite often. Year in Pop, we're talking about coming back. Blockbuster Rewind is going to come back. Blockbuster Rewatch. I have a lot of pods. I like to alternate and talk about all my favorite stuff. Over on the wrestling feed, PlayStation Wrestling Network, the last Wednesday of every month is Who's Next. That's myself and Logan Crosland, where we talk about the last month or so of NXT television. It's a lot of fun doing this. I love talking about wrestling, and because this brand is always going to be changing and evolving, and there's always going to be different people coming in and out and like that, it's going to stay fresh. So Logan and I are probably the 2 biggest NXT fans around this part. So we just decided to get together and we have a good time doing it, and it's a blast. And also check me out on Streaming the Classics when those drop on the Wrestling Network. Speaking of streaming, check out Stream Lounge every Wednesday night. I am there alternating between Blockbuster Rewatch, which I just got caught up with the MCU, so I'm doing a bunch of random movies. I'm doing Jurassic Park, and then I can actually say what my next few will be I'm planning to do Batman from 1989, Armageddon, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and The Bourne Identity. As well, I will be doing Wakanda Forever when that drops on Disney Plus with the Godfather Nate Milton, who joined me for the first Black Panther, and he is so ready to sink his ocular teeth back into Wakanda. And then I will be starting the Skywalker saga of Star Wars, and then from there, I don't know what else. And then on the other Wednesday nights, I'm doing my Pixar rewatch, and as of this recording, I am up to Cars 2. So check me out at 9 o'clock every Wednesday. For Blockbuster Rewatch, I go right into the movie. For Pixar, I go from 9 to 9:30. I do about 3 Pixar shorts by myself. And then at 9:30, I do the main event, which either I have a guest or sometimes I do those solo. And then Streaming the Classics, check me out under Blockbuster Rewatch. Check out everybody here that's doing streaming on Stream Lounge with the wrestling, with other shows, with everything. It's a great place to go. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good community because you just get in there and you can watch stuff with people and interact with them. So check that out. We're constantly promoting that. Also check out the Place to Be Facebook group, check Place to Be Facebook page. Also for you wrestling fans, the GWWE results will start dropping as of this recording. Probably the first one will have dropped, the first set of results, and it's a long reveal. I believe it's going to take at least probably about 2 months to get all the results out. So check that out every Friday at noon on PlaceToBeNation.com, and check out the Place to Be Nation Wrestling Network and the North-South Connection. Lots of great positives there for everybody: wrestling, sports, pop culture. All right, but this is going to bring an end to this first episode of Cartoons of Our Youth. I think we came out of the gate extremely strong, and that is thanks to my guest, my friend, my frequent podcast collaborator, Shawn Kidd. Shawn, thank you so much for being my first guest on this show.
No problem, man. I look forward to coming back. So it's a lot of fun.
Doors always open. Always open. For those of you listening, thank you very much. Go get your bowl of cereal, sit down in front of the TV, and watch some cartoons. Check you out later.